Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pashhammer. So today I wanted to talk to you about my experience at Warhammer World. Last weekend, a group of us went down to Warhammer World and we went to their grand tournament. We played 5 amazing games, and I thought this would be a useful video on how to show you how you could also maybe win a Warhammer Grand Tournament yourself, or maybe what not to do. So let's have a little look and see about the event itself. If you've never been to Warhammer World before, this is basically what it looks like from the sky. It's held in Nottingham. There's basically a bit of a estate, like an industrial estate. And this is what Warhammer World looks like from the sky. If we drop a little pin, you'll be able to see sort of from the front of the headquarters. You see the big Sigmarine there at the top. And then you just come along here, and this is what it looks like there. This is the main entrance to Warhammer World. You have the Space Marine here, the original Space Marine that many people recognize. I think if we go a little bit closer, you'll be able to see the Rhino there as well. And then we actually went through in there, which goes up to Bugman's, and that is the Gaming Hall. The Gaming Hall is really quite an exciting thing. It's like a castle setup, and it's quite amazing when you look at it. So let's have a little look and see what it looks like when you come in.
The calm before the storm.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty amazing. So what was the format like? Well, it was quite a straightforward format, really. There were 5 games available throughout the day, drawn randomly from Open Battle, Flank Attack, Mountain Pass, and Command and Control. For us, we got 3 sets of Open Battle, we got 1 Flank Attack, and we had Command and Control, which was an impassable piece of terrain in Game 4. In terms of how the best general was determined, which is the bit I was really most interested in, was the overall winner. It was a win-loss-draw system, so whoever won the most games would get to take the first prize. And then the tiebreakers were total victory points scored in games and opponent's game win percentage. So slightly different to other win-loss-draw systems that I've played before, where there is no victory point differential. Essentially, if you're winning a game, it doesn't matter how much you win it by, other than to determine where you place in the end. So there's no real incentive to conserve points once you know you have a comfortable lead. So really, if you wanted to, you could throw things in and try and hope that you'd score more points towards the end there as well. In terms of restrictions, there wasn't really much in place there, other than if your army had units that did not already have a limitation to how many units you can take. For example, 0 to 1 per 1,000, etc. Those units you could only take 0 to 3 of. So say, for example, in a high elf force, you'd usually be able to take as many archers as you really want, but in this composition, you'd only be able to take 3 units of them. That was the only restriction. There was really nothing else, and nothing else on top of the deployment scenarios. There was no additional missions, nothing else to do there. So let's see how we got on in the games. Okay, so let me take you through what I took. So I took a Warriors of Chaos list. It was a grand army. We had a Chaos Lord with a shield. He had Chaos Steed, Mark of Nurgle. He had the Ogre Blade with 2 Favours of the Gods and an extra arm. So that gave them a base of 6 attacks before he starts rolling on the Gaze of the Gods to get more attacks. All with the Ogre Blade. Very, very nice. Very, very choppy. To support him, I had a level 4 Sorcerer Lord, also on a Chaos Steed. This one was Mark of Tzeentch. He had an extra spell, and he had the Infernal Puppet. A crucial thing for a lot of Chaos Army lists. Addition to that, I also had another level 4 Sorcerer Lord, also on a Steed. This one was Undivided, and he had additional spell on Demonology, so 5 spells. He also had a Power Scroll and Tome of the Dark Gods, as well as an Enchanting Aura. The Enchanting Aura is giving my opponent, any unit that is in contact with this Sorcerer Lord, will be striking last generally, or striking at initiative if they have all the strikes first. Tome of the Dark Gods is an item that allows me to pick any number of signature spells, which basically means on Demonology I can basically pick multiple signatures, including the Chaos ones, which is really, really great little item. In core, we have 10 Chaos Knights marked Undivided. They had Lances, they had Full Command, they had the Brazen Collar for MR2, and they had the Blasted Standard, which allows you to reroll 1s in the shooting phase. As well as a small unit of Chaos Hounds and a slightly larger unit of Marauder Horsemen. These ones were Mark of Tzeentch, they had shields, and they had cavalry spears. They were basically a bunker for my Tzeentch level 4 when he wanted to sit out and zap things. Pairing in with that, we had a Dragon Ogre Shartak, who had the blackened plate, as well as the usual great weapon. Essentially, that gives the Shartak a 2+ armor save with a 3-up ward save against flaming attacks, which most of the time is things like fireballs and blue fire, things like that, as well as a good choppy weapon. So that was really good because it meant I had sort of like a semi-hero in the unit, in the army as well, and that was quite good. Last but not least, and a very crucial part of this list, is a Warpfire Dragon. This one was level 1. I gave them level 1 upgrade. It was really more of an experimental thing. I wanted to see if he could achieve anything. Spoiler, he didn't. The level 1 is probably not really worth it in my opinion. But he had battle magic just to see. And most of the time, I think in 4 games I took Hammer Hand. Once he did take Pillar of Fire, but that didn't really do anything. So let's have a little look and see what happened in my game 1. So in my game 1, I played Chris Bowler. Chris Bowler had a Warriors of Chaos army with a dragon. His was a dragon with a halberd. He had full plate shield, Mark of Nurgle, Ogre Blade as well, in case, you know, that gets destroyed, he's got the halberd. A couple of Favours of the Gods, an Enchanting Aura, as well as Poisonous Slime. The Poisonous Slime didn't end up doing a huge amount. In fact, spoiler, the dragon didn't really get into combat a huge amount there, but we'll show you a little bit more on that later. He also had a Sorcerer Lord with a level 4 extra spell and the Puppet on Demonology. He also had the Brazen Collar for magic resistance too. This one was on foot, which is quite crucial. You see why? Because in his core unit, he has a unit of 22 Chaos Warriors on foot. These ones have halberds, they have Standard Bearer, Musician, and Champion, and they are undivided. To pair in with that, he had a small unit of Chaos Knights, undivided full command by the looks of it, no standard. A small unit of Hounds with Poisonous Attacks and Vanguard, as well as a Chaos Chariot, which was Nurgle marked, and a Warpfire Dragon there with a level 1. A theme that I saw in a lot of lists actually this event was Warpfire Dragons with level 1 upgrades. So it looks like a lot of people are trying to make that stick to see if it happened, but every single person I spoke to basically didn't think it was really that useful, so I don't think anyone got any legs on it, unfortunately, at least with a level 1 upgrade. So let's have a look and see at deployment. So here was our deployment. Now I must apologize on the lighting on this one. Unfortunately, the position that we were in the hall, there was a light right above us. I could not get better pictures on this, so excuse the big massive arm that's crawling over it. We'll try and show you exactly what happened there. So basically for me, I deployed my my big block in the middle here, just off the center. This was open battle, by the way. My Chaos Warhounds and a big lion as usual. I've got the level 4 Tzeentch guy in here with the Marauders, and we have the Shartak and the dragon on the right flank. In the opposite direction, we have going from my right to my left, we've got the Nurgle Chariot, we've got the big block of warriors with the wizard in them. We have the unit of knights near the middle with a dragon behind them, the Dragon Lord, and then to the other flank we have a unit of hounds with the Warpfire. This was just how we deployed. I got turn 2, which I actually prefer usually, and it meant that Chris had to come to me to expose his units to my first turn charges and fire. So here's how things look like at the end of turn 1. It was a fairly aggressive turn 1 by the looks of it. I basically just pushed everything forwards towards his foot troops, knowing that they can't really get away unless they get Steed of Shadows. And what I made sure is that my wizard here, the puppet, was actually within 24 of his wizard, to make sure that he wasn't really likely to get that Steed of Shadows off. But basically, I pushed everything forward to make sure that if they don't go anywhere, I should be able to smash into them with my big block of Chaos Knights. And that's essentially what happened. This is how things look like at the end of turn 2. We had managed to smash into that unit, kill them all, and I kill off enough for them to fail fall back in good order. But if you have a look at the previous picture, they were so close to the edge of the board that even a give ground would have actually pushed them off. So a bit of poor positioning there, I think, on Chris's front, in my opinion. But It gave me the opportunity to smash into them, restrain, turn around, and start looking at the dragon and his Warpfire friend on this flank as well. You can see his dragon came around the side of the table. He still has his hounds. I believe his Chaos Knights also got blasted off the table by the Tzeentch Wizard by this point. So this is how things look like at the end of turn 2. At the end of turn 3, what we've done by this point is basically begun to whittle down some wounds on the Chaos Dragon. Essentially what I did was my Warpfire followed him round, and it stuck to him within 3 inches essentially, in a way that he couldn't charge me, but in a way that it took his ward save off. And then I just threw magic missiles at him to a point where he's just testing. Most of the magic missiles were either blue fire or they had AP1 or AP2, so he was basically down to just armor saves, which is 4 up or 5 up at best. It was really starting to whittle down some wounds. This is at the end of turn 3. It looks like the Chaos Lord on his side is down to 6 wounds. His Warpfire is looking like it might try and charge me on this flank, but it didn't end up going that way. Turn 4, his Warpfire is still getting into position. This was actually a bit of a dangerous pursuit, because I think the danger here was he would charge his Chaos Lord in my front and the Warpfire in the rear, and between the two they would destroy that unit, or at least they would certainly try. So that was definitely a danger, but I think by this point his dragon was down to about 5 wounds. It had a pillar sitting in front of it, so that would have gone through it the next turn. And it was sort of, I think, looking a bit ropey, especially if I challenge out and with my general, who started to get quite a few buffs by this point. He had strength and leadership, attacks, weapon skill. So basically I was hitting him on 3s, wounding him on 2s. It would have been quite painful probably at this point. So I don't think he fancied it after that. End of turn 5, it looks like he took his dragon away and sort of hid it away to try and conserve the points there. I started to send out my Demonology Wizard to try and zap some points from that dragon. The dragon by the end of turn 5 is now down to 3 wounds, so very, very achievable. And then my Chaos Lord turned around to face up against the dragon there as well. And this is what it looks like was in fact the end game. So in the end, I did manage to put the 2 final wounds on Chris's dragon and to put him down to a 5-up armor save, but actually Chris rolled both armor saves, and in the end the Chaos Dragon survived. So I couldn't kill his Lord, but I did kill enough points to get a victory. It looks like in that one Chris lost 865 points, and I actually didn't lose anything. There wasn't anything that died, because there wasn't a huge amount of engagement. So that put me on a good win in turn in game 1, and off to game 2. So in game 2, I came up against Andrew Simmons with his Orc and Goblins. Quite common to see Orc and Goblins in Warhammer World. I don't know what it is. It's probably one of the more popular armies, but I seem to come up against them all the time. And here is what Andrew had. So he had a Black Orc War Boss. This one was on a chariot. He did have a 5-up ward save and the regen as well as a Giant Blade, which is the one that does 2 wounds, multiple wounds too. He was the general. He also came along with an Orc Big Boss. This was the BSB with a war banner. He was on foot. He had a Dead Ard armor, which made him toughness 6, I believe. Shield, great weapon. In addition, he had a level 4 Night Goblin Odd Knob on a flying carpet with a WA magic. And paired with that was another level 4 with Lore Familiar on Elementalism. Into the core, we have 17 Black Orcs, full plate, additional hand weapons, very choppy, and the big red Raggedy Flag, as well as full command. Another 17 Orc mob had Frenzy. They're used to be the Savage Orcs. Biggins, Boss, Standard Bearer, etc. 13 Night Goblins with short bows and the Spider Banner for poison, as well as 3 Fanatics, 4 Snortling mobs just to tie things down, and rounding everything off was a unit of 10 Orc Boar Boys with Biggins, Standard Bearer, the Banner of Butchery, which I think gives him +1 weapon skill, strength, something like that, Cavalry Spears, and heavy armor. And here's how deployment looked like. So this mission was flank attack. Essentially, we had a slightly narrower deployment, which worked really against Andrew, I think, because he had a much more big block army than I did. It didn't really hamper my deployment too much, as you can see in here. But for Andrew, it was a bit of a problem. He had, what you can't really tell is behind this building is actually his general orc on a chariot as well. He deployed his, yeah, let's go through his army. He had his general behind this impassable building there, some snotlings in the front, which vanguard, oddly enough. Those savage orcs coupled with black orcs beside them, and the goblins sitting on this side, and then the orc boar boys doing the flanking on this flank. For me, I had my big block of Chaos Knights in the middle with, the usual, which was my Demonology and my Ogre Blade Lord. My dogs sitting in a marching column, and then the Zappy Marauders with the level 4 Tzeentch, Shartak paired with the Warpfire on the flank. At the end of turn 1, did I win turn 1? I did not. I actually went second in this as well, which again is more favourable. I quite enjoy going second. End of turn 1, basically Andrew just sort of shuffled everything forward. There wasn't anything too exciting. I pushed things forward, keeping things quite cautious because I really don't want those fanatics to come out and start mashing my units. I was quite comfortable chucking my Warpfire into his Orc Boar Boys. I've done that matchup before and it works out quite well in the Dragon's favour. Or so I thought. And that was the end of turn 1. It was a little bit wild there because basically what happened was the Warpfire lost combat against the Boar Boys. It ran, I think, did I fail a break test? I think I might have failed a break test, but the Boar Boys did not manage to run him down. He rallied and then went behind them the following turn. So this is why it looks like the dragon is now behind the Boar Boys. And that was the idea, was the dragon was meant to be able to see some of his units as well. The Boar Boys were trying to run down my Marauders at this point as well. And here you can see the Night Bus. I've actually made it into his Black Orcs as well. Now, I think after this point, Andrew did release some Fanatics in turn 3. But let's have a little look and see what that looks like. Yeah, it doesn't look like... there's quite a bit of change between turn 2 and turn 3 there. Starting the bottom flank. The Boar Boys charged the Marauders. The Marauders fled, stayed on the board. The Boar Boys pursued and were very, very close to the edge of the board. They were about 3 or 4 inches away. At which point my Marauders rallied. They went round them and then zapped the Boar Boys with a few really powerful magic missiles. And what that meant essentially is the Boar Boys then had to do a panic test. They rolled really high, they rolled something like a 12, and then they actually panicked off the board. So the Boar Boys they were on fire. They were just going really, really fast, but lots and lots of break tests and panic tests that were getting failed there. So they ran off the board. At the top end, we have the Black Orcs. The Black Orcs basically got munched by the bus. The bus had Fanatics run through it, it had lots of things go through it, but actually didn't take too much damage. Was able to turn around and also kill off the Frenzied Orcs, the Savages. At this point, I think Andrew considered sending the General in. He didn't quite make it in. I don't think he was in combat at this stage. My Dragon had actually charged the Night Goblins as well, and the Night Goblins, I believe, failed a break test and just got run down. So there was lots and lots of just really high break tests and things dying here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, this is quite brutal from one turn to another. So it really turned in turn 3. Turn 4, Andrew's bringing around the Snotlings and the General just to try and get some points out of this big bunker. I think at this point there wasn't really a huge amount left for me, and I just turned everything around. And yeah, this was actually it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he charged everything into Blazing Glory at the end. This is actually a 4-turn game because after this there wasn't anything left. Everything pretty much died. I lost in the end. I did lose the bunker unit, I believe. Did I lose it? Yeah, it looks like I did. I lost the big bunker unit, or I gave up enough points from it, and I lost a Shartak. But I killed off everything in my opponent's army, so that was pretty much it. So that's the end of game 2. In game 3, I went up against Rob and Gillie. So Robin had a Dwarven Mountain Hold list, just a standard Grand Army Mountain Hold list, led by an Anvil of Doom general with a Rune of Preservation, which I believe gives that word save. He had the Gunthane, as you expect, the one that shoots lots, things explode, Master Rune of Bursting Flame, Rune of Accuracy, Rune of Rapid Fire, yeah, all of that stuff. And a Runesmith with a couple of runes of spell breaking as well. In core, he had a big unit of 15 Chaos Dwarf Warriors with great weapons, drilled, veteran, stand of bear, all the usual tricks. And then he had another unit which is identical the same. Yeah, that's the same actually. On top of that, he had a unit of 8 Rangers with great weapons, crossbows and shields, and Scout, I believe. I think we can just get that anyway. And then in the bottom end, he had a Grudge Thrower. He had 14 Hammerers with veteran and drilled and a champion. And he had Rune of Confusion and Rune of Courage, which I believe where you don't get your charge bonuses, if I'm right. He also had 2 gyrocopters, both with a steam gun, 2 cannons, and 2 units of 5 Iron Drakes with Trollhammer torpedoes and cinder bombs as well. So quite a shooty army, a little bit scary for me because I have a lot of targets that could really take a pasting. Luckily the Iron Drakes are flaming, so the dragon and the Shartag actually get a bit of saves against that, but with the cannons they could quite easily get taken off. So it was quite crucial that I got the first turn here. If anywhere, this was probably the one matchup that I wanted to get it. So let's have a look at deployment. So this is how it looked like after deployment. Again, my dogs were in the middle, a fairly standard lookout there. We have the Tzeentch wizard in his little bunker, and we have everybody else in there. There's not a huge amount of variation in this list, as you can tell. Basically, these are basically the units that they have. Sometimes they chop and change, but for these ones, it was fairly straightforward. I had a Shartak on my right flank and a Chaos Warp Dragon on the left flank, facing his cannons. The idea there being that I basically have one turn to see if I die, and if I don't, I can maybe come out and kill off his cannons. Robin had both his cannons on the hill, looking at my dragon. He had the big unit of hammers are in the middle, 2 units of dwarves, warriors on either flank. He had the anvil in the middle in some difficult terrain, along with a 5-man unit of Iron Drakes, and then another 5-man unit of Iron Drakes with a that's the spellbreaking Runesmith in there as well. I believe the the gyrocopters were out on this flank as well as the scouting dwarf rangers. There is also a Grudge Thrower here in the middle. It's deployed fairly on the deployment line, so it's quite an aggressive stance. So it was really key to see who got turn 1. So as it happened, I did in fact get turn 1. Which was very lucky, and I managed to cautiously on the right flank move my units along to try and zap a few of the units that he has in front of me, and my dragon just went full tilt at those cannons. Basically, that gave Robin 1 turn before the dragon was essentially in combat for the rest of the game. And as it happened, he did fire the first cannon and did 3 wounds to it, quite nasty, but the second cannon misfired and wasn't able to shoot for that turn. It was quite fortunate. The Grudge Thrower did land, it scattered off, and this is probably quite a crucial bit. It scattered off just in such a way where it no longer had the middle hole underneath. The dragon wasn't underneath the middle hole, so he did have a partial hit on it, but he wasn't able to do any more damage to it. The dragon was left at the end of turn 1 on 2 wounds, and that's after the torpedo fired, after all the artillery fired. There was a lot of ones being rolled to wound there, so I was very fortunate actually for the dragon to run the gauntlet there. And let's have a look and see how things looked like at the end of turn 2. So as you'd imagine, the dragon survived and it ran into those cannons, managed to overrun into the second cannon in his turn, kill it, and then turn around and face the rest of Robin's army. Now, one thing that I think was quite crucial was actually the fact that Robin gave me a flank with the Iron Drakes, which actually was a lot more tempting than charging the warriors here, because I thought if I was able to kill them, I can overrun into the anvil, do a bit of damage there, and basically stay in combat for the whole game. In the middle there, we saw the Chaos Night Bus manage to get into combat and basically, well, actually, it started to get shot at by everything that he had, and it started to get whittled down even with all my my wounds. You can see on the right flank, the Shartak is chomping through those dwarf rangers. Yeah, it's looking like we're taking some wounds here because the death pile is starting to pile up. So this is end of turn 2. So at the end of the following turn, you can see that, yep, just like that, the dragon did in fact kill the Iron Drakes and managed to overrun into the anvil, while my Chaos Bunker Night Bus basically managed to go through the middle of his army and then turn flank and start to go into this direction. It looks like the wizard, yeah, the Marauders died at this stage, but the wizard bailed and he was sort of running around zapping things. By this point, Robin doesn't have a huge amount of shooting anyway, so it's not a huge threat. But that is what happened. I think actually valiantly, Robin's champion did take on the Chaos Lord in single combat. Poor little dwarf facing up against the might of the Chaos Lord and single combat, and he did get cleaved apart. I think there was about 8 or 9 attacks being thrown at him, and he probably did about 12 wounds or something ridiculous like that. So when the Chaos Lord really goes, he goes. At the end of turn 5, it looks like there's not really a huge amount left. We had a unit of Chaos, sorry, I keep calling them Chaos, Dwarf Warriors here in the middle. Pretty much everything is dead. The Shartak, once finishing with the Dwarf Rangers, managed to make it into the flank of this unit of Dwarf Warriors, and actually had to kill every single one of them individually because he was in terrain. He couldn't give ground. I kept winning combat, but we didn't go anywhere. And basically, he just kept chopping and chopping and chopping until he could kill them all. I believe in the very end, there was one champion left, and the Shartak did in fact manage to squish him as well. So lots of poor little dwarves getting squished in this army. This was the final charge, I think, just before everything died, and it looks like, yeah, the poor dwarf warriors went up for it. So at the end of that game, I killed everything, and I lost a unit of marauders. So there wasn't a quite a big points differential there, but it all sort of swung, I think, once the dragon was able to make into contact. So that was a real big part of it. At the end of the first day, there were 7 of us. We believe that we're on 3 wins each, so we knew that there would probably be a pair down to play the next day. We went out, had some curry, had a great, fantastic time with some of the Team England lads, and just generally had a very pleasant evening. But it was a lot less party on the Saturday night because I think everybody was just tired, knackered, and everybody wanted to be fresh for the morning. So on to game 4 on day 2. Let's have a little look. In game 4, I came up against Oliver Horsley. So Oliver had an Orc and Goblin list. As I said, I seem to be running into them all the time. But a slightly different one to the one I faced before. He also had a Black Orc War Boss. This one with an Ogre Blade and a Talisman of Protection for that 5-up ward. This time on a Wyvern, quite a scary little prospect. He was not the General though. The General was a Black Orc War Boss on a boar chariot. Don't know what it is, but it seems to be the thing at the moment to put them on boar chariots. It does make them very tough and nasty. This one had Enchanted Shield, Choppiest Chopper, which I believe gives them +1 strength, maybe +1 AP, and Troll Hide Trousers for the regen. So it made him very difficult to get rid of. Coupled with that, there was a small Night Goblin Big Boss, just in his pants, not really anything too exciting. A Night Goblin Odd Knob, level 4, on foot, Ruby Ring of Ruin, Idol of Mork. Idol of Mork is the +3 to your Dispel, and you get to re-roll 1 Dispel per turn, I believe. So it's quite a nasty item on WoW magic. Into the core, we have a small unit of 6 Black Orcs with additional hand weapons, just a little speed bump. 30 Night Goblins with Fanatics and shields, and these ones had thrusting spears. Another unit of 30 Night Goblins with short bows and Fanatics again. Another unit of Black Orc Mob 6 speed bumpy type dudes. An Orc Chariot. 2 units of 5 Squig Hoppers. 2 Bolt Throwers, sure, 3 Bolt Throwers, and 2 Goblin Rock Lobbers as well. Again, quite a shooty army, and Fanatics coupled with all of that. Not a great matchup for me, especially going into game 4 when you really want to try and do your best. So let's have a little look and see how we got on with deployment. So the mission was open battle, which is probably just as well because we managed to take up most of the board, or at least Oliver did. Again, for me, dogs in the middle, Tzeentch guys on this flank. I think I actually must have put the Tzeentch Sorcerer into the unit, so everything went into the night bus. Warfire Dragon on the right hand side with a Shartag. They seem to be paired quite well most of the event, so I continued on with that. For Oliver, he had some Squig Hoppers in the top right, my top right. He had a speed bump of Black Orcs here towards the middle with a Wyvern behind them. A couple of Rock Lobbers at the back shooting out things. We have an Orc Chariot. We have the General here as well. A couple of Bolt Throwers spread out here as well as one on this flank. More Black Orcs here as well as the two units of Goblins. Key thing here is the Goblins are actually in the wood. The short bow Goblins are in the wood, so it's probably well worth keeping an eye on it for it. As it happened, I got turn 2 on this one, and I think that meant Oliver could actually throw things at me in turn 1, which is quite nasty. I think he also rolled a lot of 1s actually, and did manage to do a huge amount of wounds. Yeah, I believe he did actually. Yeah, that's right. End of turn 1, I basically just pushed things forward to try and stay out of the arc of the Wyvern, and then work my way towards his Night Goblins. I knew that I had to trigger the Fanatics at some point, wanted them to be out before I can charge in. Oliver actually pushed his General closer to me to try and threaten a charge with some impact hits, but I put a unit of dogs there. What that would mean essentially is if he charged in, he'd win combat, but he wouldn't get impact hits, and he might actually have the dogs might have actually survived long enough to flee through the unit, and then even with an overrun, I'd be able to probably then charge his General without any impact hits. It's quite key, I think, on that front to try and minimize these things wherever possible. That's turn 1. Turn 2. Is that what happened in turn 2? Yeah. So turn 2, this is when things started to get interesting. My dragon... Is the Shartag dead? I think the Shartag actually died at this point. Yeah, the Shartag definitely died. The Shartag died. The dragon was... Yeah, I actually charged the Bolt Thrower and he fled with it because I think he passed his leadership before Terror Test, but he actually fled with it from a charge, and my dragon was able to connect with something else. I don't really remember what it was, but actually it doesn't look like he did. No, the dragon is sitting there looking at his goblins here as well. In the middle, what happened was I believe oh, that's right, yeah. Oliver gave me the charge on his Black Orcs. The Black Orcs then fell back, and he actually put his Wyvern behind me to try and encircle me. But what I did is I actually turned around and then charged the Wyvern to try and kill it in a round of combat. I thought it would be fairly easy, but as it happened, not so much. I probably should have put the dragon in there to try and take off the ward save. But as it wasn't his General, I wasn't keen to commit quite everything to it. As it happened, the Wyvern did lose combat, but it fled and then rallied, so it wasn't particularly massive. But what actually happened with the dragon was a lot more exciting. So, if you have a look at this image, I believe the order was this. The dragon declared a charge against the Rock Lobber. The Rock Lobber failed a terror test, ran off the board. The dragon then redirected into the Night Goblins, who were, with the short bows, who were actually facing me. That meant I didn't get a stand and shoot. I didn't have to suffer a stand and shoot because I was down to 3 wounds at this stage. The Goblins here actually failed their terror test and fled through all the way into this corner here. That caused a panic on the Night Goblins with the spears and also on the Bolt Thrower. And I believe both of them actually failed their panic test and fled. And I believe what actually happened was the spear guys actually fled off the board. The Bolt Thrower is still staying on the board, but only just. So this dragon, by not actually charging anything, by not connecting with anything, was able to destroy a unit of spearmen, which also had his level 4 in it, as well as on a level 4. The spearmen didn't have the level 4. Apologies. The spearmen ran off the board. The short bow guys were over here, and the bolt thrower was over here. So actually, with one charge, I was able to sort of kill, tear off a rock clobber and a unit of spear night goblins, which is fantastic. Didn't actually have to commit to anything there. This unit here overrun into level 4, smashed him, and then I believe rear charged the general. Did they rear charge the general? No, I think at this. Oh no, that was just an. Yeah, that was an orc chariot. I turned around and decided to go for the wyvern there, which I did kill, or it ran off the board. I think I might have killed it. I did kill it, yeah, that's right. And I didn't go up for his general. Now, this is actually a command. So, I thought this was open battle. It wasn't. Apologies. This is command and control. And what happened here was that piece of terrain in the middle is what we were fighting over. So, whoever was closest to it, with a unit strength 5 or more, was going to control it. And that could be any unit. It didn't have to be infantry or anything like that. And it had to be within 6 inches and unit strength 5 or more. That's the only conditions there. So at the end of turn 4, Oliver didn't have a huge amount left. He had his 2 bolt throwers, who both rallied, actually, as it happened, on leadership 4. The night goblins here also rallied, and the black orcs rallied, and all of it was basically looking at the objective to try and capture whatever points he could. At this point, I did a... Oh, that's right. I turned around and I did a double move towards his night goblins, basically thinking that I get 200 points if I capture this objective, but the unit of night goblins here was worth over 200 points, and I'd probably get, you know, a banner and maybe some points from the for the bolt thrower or something as well. So at the end of turn 5, I was basically sitting, looking at his night goblins with nowhere really for them to go, staring them down. My dragon having charged the general to try and dislodge him off the objective to try and do some damage to him. Now the general's actually down to only a single wound here. My dragon's down to 2, so it was really quite close and ropey. But as it happened, at the end of turn 6, I did manage to kill this unit of night goblins. I panicked the bolt thrower, that ran off. And his general did remain on 1 wound, and my dragon remained on 1 wound. I wish he hadn't, because actually it's hard to tell, but we're equidistant from the objective, so neither of us actually got any points for that. We worked it out that if the dragon had died and exploded, it would have been, you know, he would have actually killed the general, as it were. So it was probably something that would have been great if it went my way, but it didn't. So that was the end of game 4. I lost a unit of dogs and a unit of... and my Shartak. And I killed everything apart from a bolt thrower and his general. That was the only thing that he had left there. That's the end of game 4, and we went into game 5. So at this point, there were 3 of us that still had 4 wins. It was myself, it was Russ, Veal, and Scott Reed with his Tomb Kings. I knew that one of us would be playing the pair down, essentially. So somebody would be who was on 3 wins and a loss would be paired into one of 3 of us, and the other 2 would have to play each other. As it happened, this was the only time that there was actually any Swiss pairings. Essentially, the top 2 players played against each other, and the 3rd player played the highest of the 3-1 bracket. And Russ and myself were in the top 2, so we ended up in the final. So let's have a little look at Russ's list. So here's what Russ had. He had Warriors of Chaos Army. It's pretty much his mainstay. He had a Chaos Lord with a flail on a dragon, Mark of Nurgle, Brazen Collar for the MR2, a couple of favors, and Talisman of the Carrion Crow. This gave him poison attacks on the flail. It's quite important, as well as a regeneration save on top of his ward save, so quite a nasty little ability. He had a Sorcerer Lord with the Mark of Tzeentch, level 4, on a demonic mount, Favour the Gods with a puppet, Crown of Everlasting Conquest, which is the other region item, and that's also on battle. This essentially gives him a 5-up, 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 which is quite a tough little character to chew through, as it turned out to be. Going into his core, he has 660 points of core. Now, this should be said, I really should have mentioned this, that this wasn't just a plain Warriors army. This was the Heralds of Darkness list, which is why he had a little bit more core than normal. So Russ had 5 Marauders with flails, throwing axes, and Mark of Undivided. Another unit of exactly the same, and 2 units of a unit of Warhounds with Vanguard and a Chaos Chariot Mark of Tzeentch. The mark there is because of the Sorcerer Lord Heralds of Darkness ability that you need. On top of that, he had 5 Chaos Knights, Mark of Nurgle with the Banner of the Baying Hound, which is an item that gives you Vanguard. And then another unit of Chaos Knights that were Undivided, Champion and Standard. Last but not least, he had a Warpfire Dragon as well, also level 1, but this one was Demonology. I spoke to Russ about this to see how much legs he really found this had, and again, not very much. Being able to have the summoning is quite nice, but I think he said it basically never really cast anything. But the ability to threaten this was probably enough to turn some matchups. So let's have a little look and look at our deployment. So it was open battle into the final, and this is the table that we had. Again, apologies for the slight lighting issue. We were right in the corner, right above a lamp, so it wasn't absolutely fantastic. This is how things look like after the Vanguard. So for myself, I had dogs in the middle with a Shartak on the right flank opposite his chariot, which is hiding through here, and a unit of Marauders. My Marauders were in the middle with the Tzeentch Wizard, and my big bus was sitting in a wood in this flank here. My Warpfire Dragon was sitting in the corner here, opposite his Chaos Lord, which was sitting on the hill. He put his Warpfire in the middle. It's only facing that way just for so it fit beside the building. But all the little chaffy units went sort of in the middle. He put his wizard out behind the woods, so I couldn't see him. And this is how things look like in turn 1. It was pretty cagey. At the end of the first turn, we basically just moved things forward. I think I zapped for his Chaos Knights were, the Chaos Knights were almost dead. They were the vanguarding Nurgle ones. I believe we just sort of meandered forward and shot a few things, trying not to give each other too many charging opportunities. The Shartak here trying to hunt some chariots and try and get a few points here and there. Nothing too scary. Turn 2, it looks like the warriors there, the knights have actually died. Russ is starting to move forward with his 2 dragons to try and find a flank on the unit of knights to try and threaten them as well. This is probably quite a crucial part. I think Russ threatened a charge on the Marauders. I had the opportunity to either go into the big bunker unit and move forward, or go into this side, hide behind this piece of impassable, and actually throw some magic missiles at his wizard and his knights to try and get ahead on points. I ended up going around the side of this with the lone wizard. In hindsight, if I had put them into the bunker, it would have probably made the game quite a bit different, so it would have been interesting. But this is the end of turn 2. The following turn, Russ did get the charge on the Marauders, who fled off the board, and the dragon pursued off the board as well, so that was some kill points to Russ. My wizard is sitting here hiding behind this piece of terrain, throwing out magic missiles at his Marauders, who then ran off. There was one guy basically left, he ran off. And also his Chaos Knights, which I think didn't actually get past the puppet. My Night Bus went past the dragon, so did my Warpfire, and basically avoiding his Dragon Lord and threatening the softer, easier points around the back. So that's how things look like at the end of turn 3. At the end of turn 4, the Wizards... Yeah, it's starting to look a little bit interesting. So in this turn, I think basically this was when we were trying to figure out, both of us are trying to figure out how to win the game essentially in the tournament. Russ made a calculated charge with his wizard onto my Tzeentch wizard. So essentially he had a demonic mount. He rolled up an additional weapon skill on it, so he was hitting me on 3s. He had more attacks, a slightly higher strength. he charged. I fled from the charge, but managed to stay on the board to keep in the game there. The dragon came on this side. I think he probably could have, rather than charge, he probably could have actually flown beside my wizard, taken his ward save off, and maybe just slung some magic missiles at it. But I did have Puppet, I did have a level 4 to dispel, so it wasn't guaranteed. At this end, Russ actually had his Draken Lord facing into the back of my Chaos Knights. And he hummed and hawed for quite a while to see whether he wanted to charge it. I think it was a high-risk strategy to do it, because at this point I think I had an extra strength, I had an extra attack, so I was basically attacking with an Ogre Blade with something like 7 attacks, hitting him on 4s, wounding him on 2s, so not the best, as well as having a little bit of static res as well. My Warfire Dragon was chasing some points at this side, but in the end it didn't manage to catch anything. Russ didn't end up charging into the bunker here, which I don't know how that would have ended up. It would have been quite interesting. I actually thought probably just as well he didn't, because I didn't fancy that matchup. But Russ thought the same, and we ruled it out in the end, and it was all just coming down to dice to see how well that ended up. And this is basically where the game was decided, as well as essentially the tournament. The crucial point was this charge over here. So let me show you what that looked like. I rallied my Tzeentch wizard and put him beside the wood on this side. Russ decided to charge him, and I had a decision of whether to stand and hold, or whether to flee through the woods and risk being caught. My reasoning there was basically because Russ was only about 4 inches away from my wizard, he had the advantage of range, as well as with Heralds of Darkness, if rerolling 1s on the charge meant that any sort of really bad roll was probably going to get mitigated. I really didn't want my Tzeentch wizard to get caught, even though he was going through a wood and he would have dropped the dice. I didn't really want to lose the whole tournament based on a really bad flee roll. So I decided that I'm actually going to hold the charge and hope to survive a couple of rounds of combat and maybe pick up a few more points here and there as well. On this side, Russ continued to pursue the big bunker, but I was really scrambling to get any more points to try and mitigate losing the wizard in case that did go south. And as it happened, that was basically the game. What happened was Russ managed to get my wizard down to 1 wound in turn 1 in the first round of combat. In the second round of combat, it was actually my turn 6. I rolled on Gaze of the Gods and got a toughness buff. Russ, because he pursued from a previous round, actually got the initiative, went first, and managed to get a 6 to wound him, and I failed all my saves. So in the end, he did kill the Tzeentch wizard, giving him just enough points to take out the game. And this is basically how things ended up. I lost my Marauders, which are off the board, and the Tzeentch wizard for 421, and Russ lost a unit of dogs, his unit of Chaos Knights, and a small partial points for the Marauder that's just out of the corner here. So in the end, the difference between the two of us was 176 points. You needed 100 points for a win. Russ got the win, and he took out the tournament with all the marbles. So let's have a look at the final runners and riders. And the final runners and riders are like this. In first place, we've got Russ with his Heralds of Darkness. He won all 5 of his games, clocked up 8,286 battle points, and ended up on 5 wins. Now, interestingly enough, Scott Reed, who came in second place, also ended up on 5 wins, but clocking only 6,770 victory points. So quite interesting there that basically we're now starting to get to a point where the people on the top sort of podiums are all on equal amount of wins. In my opinion, I think that's maybe a flaw with the win-loss draw system. I think I would have preferred to see slightly higher differentials there, but it is what it is with this one. And good luck, well done to Russ and Scott for both winning first and second place on the podium there. All of their games as well. In third place, we have Ulf Johan Sigfridsson. I hope I pronounced that roughly correct. Team Italy. He, I believe, actually lives in Nottingham, or at least studies in Nottingham, and he came third with his Orc and Goblins. Managed to clock up a mighty 8,974 victory points, winning 4 of his games and absolutely smashing it, and definitely winning on the differential there. So he basically came in third. In fourth place, we've got our very own Scottish/Australian Chris Cousins with his Warriors of Chaos, 7,224 victory points, and myself in fifth place with 7,214 points, 10 victory points difference behind Chris is my Warriors. So that runs out the top 5. We have got Warriors with Heralds of Darkness, Tomb Kings, Orc and Goblins, and then Warriors and Warriors as well. The rest of the top 5, we have Riccardo with Orcs and Goblins from Team Italy. We've got Dean with Bretonian Exiles from the Facehammer team. We've got Alex Reed from Warwickshire Gamers with his High Elves, good on High Elves. Ian McGregor with his Exiles, that's one of our Scottish lot, and Andy Lamb with his Bretonians as well. Quite a mixed top 10, to be honest. Brett's High Elves, Orcs and Goblins, Warriors, different flavours of different armies there as well. Quite interesting. I think for the rest of the top 20, we had Chris Mills is one of our Scottish lot. We've got James Gilray, and we've got Callum Hay, also from Team Scotland. So we had quite a number of our Scottish guys doing really well. 60 odd players that turned up to this event, and all of our guys placed in the top 20, with obviously a few vying for the podium top slots. Overall, I think it was a fantastic event. Honestly, I genuinely really enjoyed it. All the games were really good fun against different players, and it was really tight. A bit bummed about not winning, obviously, in the final round, and it coming down to such a close tight knit, especially when there were such amazing prizes up for grabs, and getting bumped to 5th place. But that's just the way it works. It seems to be my curse to play in the final and get bumped to 5th place. Maybe just an issue with the system, or maybe I just need to play better. But hopefully I'll get the chance to come back again, and contend for the top spot in another time. And here is what could have been. So this is the top prize, a fantastic set of trophies that Games Workshop have now created. They're not even, I don't think they're 3D printed. They're properly made. But I stole it for a quick second there before Russ took it away. But that is what we were fighting for. So overall, a fantastic event, really good fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much to all my opponents for putting up a good game. Thank you to the TOs for running it. Had a wonderful time, and if you ever get the opportunity, I'd highly recommend you give it a wee try. Hopefully you found this video helpful. This is just one of many that we'll be doing in the future with covering more games and events. If you did find it helpful, please smash the like button. Please subscribe. We really need more subscribers, and give us a wee comment if you found this interesting, or if you like to see more of this sort of content in the future. All the very best. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.